Been living next to R for 20 years. First, it started with me coming home to find he had hooked up an extension cord to one of my exterior outlets and was stealing my electricity. I have a friend who is an electrician, so after the cord was unhooked before I could call the cops on him, I had my electrician pal come over and wire up that receptacle to 240 volts.
Been living next to R for 20 years. First, it started with me coming home to find he had hooked up an extension cord to one of my exterior outlets and was stealing my electricity. I have a friend who is an electrician, so after the cord was unhooked before I could call the cops on him, I had my electrician pal come over and wire up that receptacle to 240 volts. I never heard any smoke or loud pops, zaps, but I hope he had been stealing my electricity to power something really, really expensive. He never plugged an extension cord into any of my outlets again. He also has frequent, weird house guests that stay for days, months. I think he lures them over with a free place to stay, and possibly drugs and alcohol. We got tired of them wandering over and knocking on our door, always interrupting us and asking for free Wi-Fi. So finally we set up a fake open Wi-Fi network that looks like free Wi-Fi. But when you try to connect to the internet, you get redirected and you can only view the infamous, "Never gonna give you up" music video but nothing else, so you basically get Rickrolled. We have a photo of the singer of that video in a frame with LED lights behind his eyes, and when someone tries to access it, his eyes light up so we know when they're doing it. The Rickroll fake Wi-Fi network seems to have stopped the weird people showing up asking to use our Wi-Fi. He also used to cut through the back part of my yard all the time, and one time his dog ran into our yard and attacked my husband while we were doing yard work. So animal control got an immediate call, and he had to fence in his backyard, which he did a horrible job on, and several times his dog has gotten loose and I caught him waltzing through my backyard walking after it like it was no issue. Last year I expanded our chain link fence all the way out to the property line, so he can't cut through our yard anymore and his dog is better contained. I had built a shed back there and was tired of that being outside the fence anyway. I got a survey and found his bushes were encroaching on my property by quite a large area, so those got trimmed back too. I also put up privacy slats in the fence, and I don't know why that bothered him so much, but after living for years with his ugly broken down Bronco parked on his lawn and overhanging the property line in the front, I'm totally at peace with him being ticked off by my new fence while I get the full use of my property now. I also had the new fence expansion put in with a 3 to 4 inch gap at the bottom, and our property is raised up above his. For some reason when these houses were built, his is dug down by about 4 to 5 feet. So is his invasive, junk diseased elm tree drops all manner of leaves, dead, diseased branches and seeds in my yard. Rather than quietly pick it all up like I used to, I just pull out my leaf blower and blow it all under the fence and back into his yard. I xeriscape my yard, no lawn, and some years back when I was trimming back my large perennials, the wind picked up some of the trimmings and they blew onto his lawn. I found them all thrown unceremoniously up onto my porch. I think of this and smile every time I return all the leaves, dead branches and elm seeds from his tree. And I blow them right onto his lawn. Larger branches that I used to put through our big chipper shredder, nope. Tossed over the fence and on top of his lawn for him to deal with. And he never trims that tree, it is very large and mostly dead and drops a lot of dead branches constantly. He also burns his fireplace in the summer and burns his trash rather than pay for trash service, which smells horrible and always gives me migraines. Yesterday we stained a bunch of wood. The stains are letting off a ton of vapors in the hot weather today, and I have some big, very powerful fans outside blowing the vapors over in his direction. One of the other neighbors told me he keyed her car once, and when he finally got rid of the Bronco and got himself a shiny new Subaru Impreza, but he was too cheap to pay for full coverage, and some lady broadsided him during a light change. Wasn't deemed at fault for the accident, he said, she said, and several weeks later the car came back drivable but mostly smashed, the deployed airbags still kinda hanging down on the sides. Karma gets credit for that one though. We get along with everyone else in the neighborhood but this guy. I literally gave away 300+ pounds of fruit off of my trees last year, peaches, plums, apricots. It was a bumper crop. We've got a snowblower and we help clear sidewalks for a lot of the folks too, and I've given away tons of perennials and loaned out garden tools. We're generally overly helpful to everyone else except R when it comes to him. I am a petty babe in total control of herself. He could have had amazing neighbors if he'd been even slightly considerate and been less of a nuisance and not bullied us and stolen from us. It sucks to suck. Edit to add. Thanks for the idea of aiming the chipper shredder exhaust towards his lawn. It's the big one from Harbor Freight Tools, and if I take the bag off I bet that thing will shoot micro wood particles 10+ feet easily. And lots of them. I'll save that as the last, nuclear option. Thanks as well for the discussion of the trash burning as a health hazard. I close the windows and thankfully have an arsenal of air purifiers I run on full blast when he does it. But he's breathing these fumes up close and personal. Thinking about this, I'm realizing if I can, I should take out a life insurance policy on him so I can outlive him and get paid for doing so. That would be pro-revenge for all the migraines. Also, correction in first paragraph. Cord wasn't unhooked by me. I would have called the cops immediately if I'd found it that way. My ex, who I originally bought the house with, unhooked it and told me about it when I got home, so away went my chance for criminal charges, unfortunately. Which would have been a better and safer solution than a booby-trapped electrical outlet, which for safety purposes I am not recommending.